Welcome to episode 91 of the Sports Geek podcast. On this week's podcast, I catch up with the Detroit Red Wings' Tod Caflisch about rolling out a Wi-Fi at the 35-year-old Joe Louis Arena.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host, who's checking the podcast download stats right now, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. My name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek, and I am checking the podcast stats right now. And thank you very much. Recently passed 100,000 downloads for the Sports Geek podcast. So if James, who's putting it in, can you put some applause sound effects at the behind this? But thank you very much for everyone who has downloaded and listened and left reviews for the podcast. You can do so at sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes. All of your promotion and sharing on platforms such as LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook have definitely helped more people find the podcast, which I'm very much appreciative of. On this week's episode, I have a former guest and a good mate of mine, Tod Caflisch from the Detroit Red Wings, to talk about the rollout that they've done at the Joe Louis Arena with the guys at SignalShare on both rolling out the Wi-Fi, but then also capturing the data from the fans that are turning up to the games, which is vitally important and obviously will be a massive discussion point at Seed Conference in San Francisco. And then I catch up with SignalShare co-founder Joe Costanzo to talk a little bit about some of the lessons that they've learnt by both in the sports industry, but then also setting up networks and data capture in other industries, specifically music, looking at festivals and pop-up events. And we even talk a little bit of Garth Brooks and what Garth Brooks does to capture some data and sell a little bit more merchandise, which helps justify the case for the Wi-Fi rollout. So without further ado, here is my chat with Tod Caflisch from the Detroit Red Wings. Very happy to have Tod Caflisch, Director of IT at the Detroit Red Wings and Olympia Entertainment, back to the Sports Geek podcast. Tod, welcome back.
Oh, thanks, Sean. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, it was all the way back in, I was just checking the archives, way back in episode 12, so it was like 60, 70, 80-year-old episodes ago. So good to have you back. Always happy to have on repeat guests, especially when they're good friends. And I wanted to catch up with you around some of the stuff that you've been doing at the Joe Louis Arena, home of the Detroit Red Wings, and especially around one of the big things is capturing data and putting on infrastructure on top of your Wi-Fi. Do you want to talk a little bit about the project that you rolled out at Joe Louis?
Yeah, we, when I first got to the Red Wings 2 years ago, actually 2 years ago today, Joe Louis Arena was pretty sparse when it came to any kind of real technology, especially Wi-Fi, and even point of sale was real slim, which was another project that we kicked off last fall that was turned out to be very successful. But the reason why projects like this in the past hadn't been really gotten over the hump and approved was because our new arena that we're going to be opening now in 2017 seemed to be kind of always around the corner, and always looked like a bad investment to make into 35-year-old arena that was going to get flattened when we moved out. So I took a little different approach to it and kind of couched it as part of a ramp-up initiative in preparing not just our fans but our staff for operating the new arena and really maximizing the impact of the new technology that we'll be having in place there. Wi-Fi certainly plays a huge role in that. So we went out and talked to a number of vendors. And, because of our unique situation with our short-term stay at the Joe, SignalShare really was our best option, both technically and financially. and they really, really stepped up and, gave us a great solution, and a great price, so that way we could get that project off the ground finally.
And it is a pretty common theme where you sort of go, we are going to do upgrades down the track or a new stadium, and you want to hold off, but the demands of fans and the expectations of fans, especially if they're going to other arenas that have this technology, you couldn't wait 2 years and just expect Red Wings fans to be sitting on their phones, so to speak, because they couldn't connect. The demands from the fans would have just got louder and louder, and so I guess it's really good that you've got it now, so your marketing team and department and your CRM guys can start rolling out some of these activations without that real big bang, here's our new shiny building, and we have to get everything right from day one. They can be testing some of those strategies now.
That is exactly the plan. That was kind of the way I argued as well, is that there hasn't been any kind of new arena opening or new technology deployment anywhere that I've really known of that hasn't run into issues, bugs, glitches, you name it. And we really want to maximize the impact of the newness of the building, especially with the excitement that is really kind of building around it, as far as the revitalization of downtown or Detroit. So it's kind of you only have one chance to make a first impression thing, and we want to make the biggest bang possible right out of the chute. So I really sold it as kind of the going from Flintstones to Jetsons, and really doing it in an evolutionary way rather than a giant leap, down, the 11th hour. And, that seemed to really resonate with people because, we wanted to maximize the investment, and there was a lot of, other aspects, how it helped, how it helped me to sell it was, through data collection and integration, with CRM and our marketing efforts and all of that, because we also have other properties that we support, Fox Theater and Hockeytown Cafe. So there were some really kind of cool opportunities to tie in cross-marketing, with that as well, or at least to test it, because we'll have, a number of different properties as part of the entire District Detroit that, we'll be operating and be marketing.
And I think that's the big thing. I think that's the big shift, at least in my time that that I've known you, and in the first time I attended SEAT back in 2011, when it was all CTOs and CIOs and IT directors like yourself. When we were talking about the Wi-Fi and the DAS solution just as a technical solution, but now it's really it has to be woven in with the CRM and the digital guys, and that's sort of that's exactly what the Wi-Fi Engage product provides. That to sort of explain it to listeners, it provides that squeeze page, sort of a welcome setting for anyone that jumps on the Wi-Fi, so you can provide a screen to do a competition and do a data capture, whether it be for a Red Wings prize. But then if you've got a concert in town, you can run something completely different for that thing. So it really fits for the Joe as a multi-purpose venue, and it also allows that welcome screen to be refreshable, and it's a really good tool for your commercial guys and your digital team as far as getting data of people in the stadium.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That was one of the, really kind of the surprise bonuses of the LiveFi portal. There have been other venues where they threw out Wi-Fi and it was just free, and people, but you never know who was there. And that was not a model I wanted to follow, because the finding out who's there, was one of the really toughest parts of running an arena, because just because you might sell out all your seats, it doesn't mean that all the people that are season ticket holders are the ones using those tickets. So finding out who these other people are, that are buying individual seats or borrowing, or being gifted tickets, that kind of thing is really important, because what that the way I kind of couched it was we're giving it away, yes, but we're getting value back from it because we're not charging people to use the Wi-Fi, but we are requiring that they register, so that way we have a name, email address, and a postal code. So, there's value in that data, because we've found tens of thousands of new people that we never would have known before, that and that was part of my plan, was that the Wi-Fi and the Live-Fi portal and the registration becomes one segment of the monetization, as an evergreen source of contacts that are basically warm, because if they're there, they are either hockey fans or Red Wings fans for a Red Wings event, let's say, but concerts and kid shows and other stuff as well. So it's not like a cold call. When we do reach out to them with survey, post event or email marketing and that kind of thing. So the Li-Fi portal has worked very well for us. Really just active in, the last half of the season, because we deployed through, and tested through the first half. But, one of the other really kind of cool side effects, or I guess, benefits that we discovered was, the ability to really dynamically reskin the Live-Fi portal so it reflects the event. So like concerts and things that we had, didn't have a Red Wings, theme to it. It had concert related. Or like when we hosted the Big Ten hockey tournament, it was completely skinned in the light blue and black and white of the Big Ten with all their logos. And they had there was a revenue sharing opportunity for us with the Big Ten, with sponsorship banners and ads and that kind of thing there, which was great for both of us, because it gave each of us more resource, more inventory to sell, for an event. And then
yeah, I think that is the valuable piece, because a lot of stadiums and teams are building out their own apps, which are great in wayfinding and menu ordering and things like that. But I was talking to Joe Costanzo, founder of SignalShare, the other day in preparations for Seat, and some of the analytics that they're getting off their Wi-Fi sort of shows, one, what are the top apps that people are using when they connect to networks, and Instagram is way up there, because you want to take a photo that you're at the Joe, or you're at a Garth Brooks concert, or whatever it is, and then it's the social networks, and it's the team and the stadium apps are way down the list, because you've only got a short amount of time. So getting that first presence, whether it is, hey, did you know you can buy a special T-shirt because you went, or sending them somewhere and getting that message to them right there on their phones when they've logged in, is super valuable. And if you want, you can drive them into your app. But it's just that getting your message, and like I said, getting the data that helps you when people say, hey, Todd, why did we, what was the return on us rolling out this Wi-Fi? If you're not collecting that data, if you can't go back and say, here's the tens of thousands of emails and data we've got on our fans, it becomes a difficult conversation. But with that data and your CRM and your data guys backing you up, patting you on the back for all the fresh data that's landing on their desks, it makes it a far easier conversation on what you're trying to do.
Yep. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And it's become such an expectation, and people, have, I guess, that at-home experience with Wi-Fi they expect everywhere they go. So there's a lot of pressure, on us and SignalShare to, not only, maintain, a high level of activity or capacity for Wi-Fi, but, to continue to improve it as well.
And so from a rollout point of view, you rolled out the Wi-Fi in January. A good friend of ours and part of the Seat community, Kevin Akers, formerly of the Warriors, is now at SignalShare. He was part of the project. How long did the project take? Were there any hassles or things you had to overcome to get the project rolled out from a technical point of view?
We had, Joe Louis is a 35-year-old venue. It was, it's a pre-internet building. So, our building was infrastructure light to begin with. So I mean, there was, like on our suite level, we actually had to create 2 new IDFs to wire to, just because of distance limitations.
So for the non geeks listening, can we get what are IDFs?
Those are the communication closets, where the cabling that connects the Wi-Fi access points back to the central network core.
Yep. And so you've had to roll out all that cabling and get the Wi-Fi around the infrastructure that was there, because there's a lot of concrete and poles and things like that. There wasn't a lot of ducts to put the wiring through.
Yep. And I mean, there was unique challenges, with the building because of its age and the way it was designed as well. I mean, the ceiling was too high for us to put access points there, so we had to build them into railings on the inner bowl, shooting kind of towards the ice and then up towards the back walls, for coverage. And I mean, that was a huge aesthetic concern right there. I mean, I actually built a little cardboard and wooden model of the access points and the antennas, and literally walked around the complete arena and held the model up on where they would have been, where we mounted them on the railings, and had people in our marketing and customer relations and sales departments all sit in the seats and view it, and to make sure that we didn't have issues with obstructions, because I mean, we've got people there that are season ticket holders for longer than most people have been alive. So there's and they're hockey purists, and they're used to having the views. So there were plenty of challenges between that infrastructure. Oh gosh, what else? I mean,
but I guess again, going back to that point of retrofitting an old stadium, as much as it's great for the marketing guys to have this have the tool there for them to capture data, I'm sure that exercise is going forward for you to do it in 2017 in the new building. I mean, you've learned a lot in this process. So going forward, when you start the new building in 2017, where the plans are all in place and those kind of things, you're now taking some of those lessons onto the next project?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are starting to already work with the consultants and the construction company on design that kind of takes a very Wi-Fi friendly approach to the building itself. So that way, I mean, it's being a post-internet building. I mean, building out IDFs and all that stuff are just kind of part of the basic design nowadays. But being able to you got to take into account a lot of issues like hard surface and other angles and the type of technology you're going to use, as well as the capacity of the for the crowd and that kind of thing, in order to get the right coverage to maintain the capacity that you need to have adequate coverage during peak times.
Well, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast. I'm very, very much looking forward to continuing this conversation in San Francisco at SEAT. And I also want to say a big thank you. My Detroit Red Wings Sports Geek jersey arrived in the mail yesterday, hanging proudly on the Sports Geek office. So thanks again for sending it through.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Anything for you, man.
I'll have to make sure to get to the Joe before 2017 and see the Red Wings in real life.
Absolutely, it's an experience that hockey people in general. It's a bucket list item, just because of just seeing the banners all hanging. I mean, dozens and dozens of banners hanging, and just the whole atmosphere. I mean, it's kind of hockey heaven. for most people.
And the thing is, from a Red Wings point of view, they have fans everywhere. I have seen the Red Wings play before. I saw them at the American Airlines Centre playing the Dallas Stars, and I think even on that night there was more Red Wings fans in attendance than Stars fans. So they are everywhere, and you can add me to the list now, Todd. Thanks to your good self, and we'll see you in sunny San Francisco.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Sean. It was great to talk to you.
Sign up for Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now.
Thank you very much to Tod Caflisch at T Caflisch on Twitter, CAFLISCH. I believe I've got that right. Todd will put me in a headlock at seat if I have spelt his name wrong. And I do want to say a big thank you, and there'll be pictures in the show notes. A big thank you to Todd for sending me the Detroit Red Wings Sports Geek jersey that is proudly hanging in the Sports Geek office. I might have to go down to the Medibank Ice House here in Melbourne and maybe even try some skates, but I won't do that until after seat. As everyone knows, I'm prone to getting injured or falling ill just prior to seat. So the last thing I want to do is break a leg on the ice. But thank you very much, Todd. Looking forward to catching up. And in San Francisco, I did, after catching up with Todd, caught up with Joe Costanzo, CTO and co-founder at SignalShare, to talk a little bit about, from the vendor side of things, how SignalShare roll out the Joe Louis Arena and what they're doing in other verticals. Here's my chat with Joe from SignalShare. Very happy to follow up my chat with Tod Caflisch with Joe Costanzo, CTO and co-founder of SignalShare. Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, Joe.
Hey, thank you very much. Happy to be here.
So I was just recently chatting with Todd, the Detroit Red Wings, around the Li-Fi rollout at the Red Wings as a way for them to both give their fans some Wi-Fi, but then also capture that data. Sport's not the only vertical that you roll out the Li-Fi system in, is it?
No, really in just about a lot of the other event markets, right? So, we utilize it around corporate events, especially large technology companies such as like SAP and IBM and HP does very well there. Obviously in the hospitality space, so we have some convention center business, and they utilize it because they can quickly adapt it to the changing shows that they have on the floor. And of course in the music entertainment space. So we have used it quite recently with a Garth Brooks 5 nights in Buffalo, New York earlier this year. And then we've utilized it in music festivals such as Coachella and Stagecoach. So, there's some commonality amongst all those different types of events, and it's flexible enough to be adapted very quickly, depending on what the event is.
And the good thing in my chat with Todd was it gives the marketing folk and the CRM guys that are looking for the data different ideas and inspiration, because they can swap in and swap out that front page, that welcome page for fans. So, with Garth Brooks, it was, hey, sign up and there's a special offer, and it sends them straight to a special tour pack or something like that to lift merch sales. There's so many different ideas that you can do with that, I guess, that first experience that the fan gets once they're on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so the system, the Li-Fi product suite, really has 2 components. The M-Power component, which is what sits locally there and handles kind of that captive portal flow, and in that side of it, you can easily switch out that page. It can provide an advertising sponsorship opportunity, but to your point, it's a great way to collect data. Recently at one of our motorsports events they were running some other data collection campaigns throughout the event site where they were trying to get, age buckets, they were trying to get zip codes, those type of things. So it was really easy because it's all database driven for us to change out those data collector fields in that splash page to match up with the other data collection that they were doing on site. So, that's a really easy way to do it. And then, once you're in there and you're just browsing around, whether you're going to, CNN or Yahoo Sports or, wherever you may be, we have the ability to inject a message onto the page that you're on, and it gives the marketing team another opportunity to put an event message, a sponsorship message out there that is clickable and lead them into another offer or another piece of information where they may be able to extract an additional piece of information about you and who you are.
Yeah, and that's the vital part, especially now. Early on, when my first seat in 2011, everyone was talking about Wi-Fi and installing it, but it was that who pays. But pulling in a model like Li-Fi and the fact that you can inject sponsorship, add more inventory for you guys to sell, but then the other bit that was making Tod big best friends with the guys, the CRM guys, was the amount of data that he was able to capture of the guests, of fans, and anyone attending the stadium, that he was always serving up these warm leads back to the sales team.
Yeah, and I mean that's been one of the key concepts of the platform. When we introduced it, my background was never really in Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi engineering. It was in data and analytics. And when we started the company and started rolling out the product, one of the points that we wanted to be able to make with it is the ease of collecting that data and the ease of, collecting that information. So I think probably when you were talking with Tod, I don't know if he mentioned it, but, they garnered over 40,000 names and contact information just from the logon process. And that's really the point of it, is that, if you can engage me when I'm at the event, then you have a better chance of collecting information, because I'm there as a fan one way or another. I'm either there as a fan for the home team or I'm there for a fan of the away team. And chances are, if you present it properly and it's easy to use and it's quick, then I'm willing to give you information. It's, that's the problem, is after I leave the event, I get back into, my normal routine of life, and I'm not so focused on the team and maybe engaging with them. And it's really, that's the segment of your attendees and your fan base that, you're really after. Because look, the Uber fan, they know everything about you. You change the color on a website, you're going to change the color in the bathroom stalls. They probably know about it, right? You don't have to do anything to engage them. It's the average fan or the average Joe, since we're talking about the Red Wings, right? That you really want to engage, and they're the easiest to engage, I think, when you're at the event. That's when it's going to happen.
One of the challenges, and working with both teams and stadiums over here in Australia, and also talking to people around the world around the age of a stadium, and we're really looking forward to checking out Levi's Stadium and AT&T Park as technology leaders from a stadium point of view. But the Joe Louis Arena, 35 years old. Tod had some really set requirements where he said, I need something to roll out, but I don't need it. I don't need it forever, because he's got a new stadium build coming down the track. How do you guys best fit in that? Because you've done the pop-up stuff in events, you can retrofit stadiums and provide a solution that can provide that stopgap solution.
Yeah, I think, that's one of the key points, and what's a little bit different about us than maybe, some of the other providers out there, is that one is we're solely focused in sports and entertainment, right? So events is what we do. That doesn't mean that, there aren't other things that are in there, but we realize that things have to be a little bit different. So, where we started really evolving our hardware and our product suite was in the temporary market. So, we've really taken and we adapt the technology and the hardware that, our partners put a lot of R&D and effort into, we adapt that for this marketplace. And, we have things that we've done from our temporary installations that have made it over into the permanent installations that have just really helped us with making sure that we can put equipment and hardware and signal in the right places. But we also have to maintain, even in an older arena like Joe Louis, we really have to maintain aesthetics. And of course, we have codes just like anybody does that have to be met. So, in one of our other customers, we really needed to be able to adapt the hardware providers' antennas to a railing setup that would meet OSHA requirements, but also allow us the ability to, rotate and move that antenna when it came time for tuning it from an RF perspective. So in the course of less than 30 days, we designed an enclosure for the antenna, we manufactured that enclosure, and we installed that enclosure with the antennas on that permanent site. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to find, other folks that can react that quickly. But the reality is we have to react that quickly because we're really used to, the entertainment and event space, and the show's going to go on whether you're ready for it or not. And, we've just adapted some of those things into what we can do permanently. And folks like Tod and the Joe Louis Arena is a perfect example of, how they can take advantage of our skill set in other areas of, the entertainment and event space.
Yeah, Todd was talking about at Joe Louis being, the most passionate hockey, some of the most passionate hockey fans in the world, if not the most passionate. He was setting up mock-ups of all the antennas and getting all his staff to come and check where they were sitting, did it block views, what was the experience without detracting from the aesthetic of the arena itself. So there was a lot of work done in that space, knowing where to place them and what it gave for the overall look, but also provided the functionality that he needed.
Yeah, and it's a fine line to walk between, aesthetics and functionality. I mean, look, if it were up to us or if it were up to my engineers, they would put a dot everywhere they could and say, that's where we're going to put an AP and that's where we're going to put an antenna. But it's understanding and, balancing that with the technology needs that I think is the real challenge in a lot of these instances. And, once again, that comes in. I mean, we do things like, the U.S. Open of tennis and, made for TV events. And even in the music side of the world, these events are being streamed more and more and more. So there's always a camera, and, you can't have an antenna or a cluster of antennas in the line of sight of a camera. And it just messes up the view from a viewing perspective on TV or on the web stream. So, our guys are very familiar with that. It's not something that you would typically think an engineer would think about when they're designing a network, but, that's what our crew does.
The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is some of the stats you've seen from the Engage side of product, which is the analytics on what apps what fans are using when they are going online and going on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, sure. So, the first part of our Wi-Fi product suite was what we were talking about, the Empower platform, which is the localized appliance that sits there on the network and handles the initial handoff of, logging into the network and capturing that information, and also gives the injection back into your web browser. But what we found through looking at the data and looking at it not just in the sports market, but looking at that data across multiple types of events, whether they were a corporate event, a sporting event, a one-off event, a music event, what we found is that in most instances, and nothing's ever 100% when it comes to data, but in most instances, the event app itself, whether it was a team app, the venue app, or the conference app, they rarely floated into the top 10. And when you're bringing technology to an arena in order to help them, or an event in order to help them monetize it, you really have to understand where the eyeballs are. So what we started saying was, we got to find something that closes the gap between everybody's jumping into what we call their native apps, right? And you could list them off the top of your head. Most people could. It's the Facebook, it's the Twitter, it's the Instagram, it's the Vine. And then depending on the demographics, the next 5 can be, changed a little bit. But for the most part, those top 5 are consistent and the same. So, we know people are wanting to get out there. We know they want to, talk about what they're doing and generate a buzz. And, we know that the event really wants to, capture that buzz and use that content that's being generated by the attendees. So that's where Engage really came into play, and that's where we started to develop the audience engagement solution that we call Engage. And what that is a place that once you log in, we can redirect you into this HTML5 portal. And what we do is we collect all of the social media content, has a moderation engine, and we start feeding that through. It also gives the team, the event, the arena, the ability to put more content specific to that night's event in one place, and it's easily changed, it's easily moved, and anybody with a web browser can get to it. So what we started seeing was really kind of unique. And once again, once we realized that there was really kind of gap, and it's not to say that the team apps, that the event apps are not good. They are, but we just see that, they're really more used for pre and post event engagement, and that's just because of the way people are with social media and content. So as we started filling that gap with Engage, and as we started seeing all this content coming through, what we found that was really surprising to us was the amount of dwell time that was being spent within that Engage site. And that's really key, because the dwell time was averaging, depending on the length of the event, anywhere from about 6.5 minutes upwards to about 11 or 12 minutes. And if you look at mobile stats for like mobile apps, some apps would be happy to get 5 minutes of dwell time in a month within their app. So having that available now is a place where people go to their native app, they use the connectivity that the event's providing over the network, they're able to post their information, and then the next place that they're going is into the Engage portal, and they're looking to see if their information makes it in there. They're looking to see if other people around them's information's in there. And so their eyeballs are really kind of dwelling within that one spot. And what that then does is it really produces an effect where you can put the right message and the right content in front of people's eyeballs when you know they're going to be looking at your device, right? And I think you've talked with, Mark Cuban, you've talked with a lot of owners and arena owners, and, the average concern is that I don't want people looking in their phones. I want them viewing the event. That's why they're here. That's why I have a team. That's why we have this arena. But we all know that they are going to look in those phones, right? So if you can really look at the trend in the data and understand that a moment is occurring where people are going to be looking in their phones, and you can quickly open up your dashboard and insert relevant content, then you're going to be serving everybody best, right? You're going to be putting content in when people are looking at their phones. You're going to know when people are dwelling in that portal environment and on their phones, and they're going to get content that's relevant to them at a time when they're looking at their device. So you're seeing the event, people are experiencing the event, but yet we're providing a platform and data and tools that allows the event to engage and communicate at the right time.
And that's the thing. You can provide something that is unique to the experience of being at the game, and that's the bit that I think really works well. And what we will see it in action at SEAT. So anyone who is turning up to SEAT in San Francisco, and you jump on the Wi-Fi there at the Western St. Francis, you will be able to open up and you'll be able to see the agenda, and you'll be able to see the announcements and knowing what's happening in the next break by just looking at the site that we'll have there on the Wi-Fi, won't we?
Yeah, and that's going to be great. And what's really good about it, and what we're working with the hotel to be able to do, is also if you were to log in your room versus in the event space, you'll also get a chance to get redirected to that site. And I think that's another important thing that our teams are starting to see, and not just our teams. I mean, this goes across the event types. They're looking at that and they're saying, I have got tons of fans that are not here at the event, but are very interested in what's going on in the event. And providing them access to this URL outside of the event really starts generating some buzz with those folks as well, because the content that you're looking at, for the most part, is being generated by folks there at the event, right? So they're taking pictures, they're tweeting out, what's going on. So having this available not only as through the Wi-Fi network, but having this available just globally and through the cellular access as well, allows us to make sure that, one, any eyeball that's there at the event, whether they're on the cellular network or they're on the Wi-Fi network, we can serve this up to them. But more importantly, people that aren't at the event are feeling the buzz that the content from the event is generating. And that's really what we strive to do for our customers, is not for the event to be a content consumer where, information is being pulled down onto the network from outside the event, but for the event to be a content producer, right? If you have good communications in place and you have a solid network, your event in this day and age should be a content producer. It should be generating a buzz for you. And that's what Li-Fi, the Engage platform, and the Empower platform together really help you do and give you the flexibility to manage it yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Joe. Looking forward to the digital track, where we're co-emceeing the digital track in San Francisco, and we will see the SignalShare product in action at Seat. People can go to signalshare.com to check you out, check things out, and get in touch. And we'll have a link to your LinkedIn in the show notes. And look forward to catching up with you in San Francisco.
Yeah, same here. I look forward to catching up with you, and I look forward to seeing everybody at Seat and seeing some of this in action, and just having the type of conversations we usually have there.
Cheers.
Like the Sports Geek podcast? Find us on facebook.com/sportsgeek.
Thanks again to Joe Costanzo and Jenny at SignalShare for helping set up that interview with Joe. Good to catch up with him. And as I said there at the end, Joe will be co-emceeing the digital track at Seat San Francisco, and really looking forward to it. A quick preview. You can go now to the agenda by simply going to seatconsortium.com and checking out the full agenda for the 3 days. Sunday, obviously, kicking off with the technology tour down at Levi Stadium, where we're going to be talking to some of the executives from the 49ers, as well as the technology partners that rolled it out. And then we start everything on Monday at 9 a.m, where I'm doing the opening remarks with Christine and Dan. And I promise to everyone who was in Miami that I will have a voice, and I will be able to get those remarks in an audible form. And then we've got some really good panels to kick off, monetizing an immersive fan experience with some really good vendors: Samsung, Zoomph, Venue Ties, Triple Play, Ambience. Christine's running that panel, and then looking at different tracks. From a digital track, I'll be doing my Around the World in 50 minutes, where I'll be looking at different case studies with that online-offline theme. It's coming together. I'm actually going to head out with a mate of mine, Steve Sammartino, who's one of the blokes from Beers Blokes Business. He does a lot of speaking gigs, and we're just going to do a bit of workshopping of that presentation and knock off the rough edges, if there are any at the moment. But really looking forward to that. If you've got a campaign that you'd like to include, or you think fits in that space, and that online-offline theme is really something that we really just discussed with Joe around connecting those fans that are in the stadium, and how can we get their data to connect them once they leave the stadium. So send me an email, Sean Sean at sportsgeekhq.com if you have any questions or if you want to be involved in that. Some of the other tracks and some of the other sessions that I'm really looking forward to. Brian Sarabian from episode 72, I think, running a session on best practices on executing the right process in social and digital strategies. Brian's definitely the right person to do that. Another panel that I'm really looking forward to, and again, got the right guy in place, Dwayne Hankins from the Portland Trailblazers, formerly from the LA Kings, and I had him on the podcast when he was with the Kings. Risks versus rewards, how far is too far? So really looking at that conundrum of how edgy can your brand be? Does it fit with your team's brand? What works? What doesn't work? And how many emojis can you use? I'm obviously referring to that Houston Rockets tweet. I'm sure it will be part of the discussion. Also, some other events, some other sessions that I might even jump into and leave the digital track. Aaron Levi, I hope I'm getting his name right, CEO of Box.com. Christine's doing a keynote interview with him. And another one in the CXO Leaders track, Peter Sokoff, the Chief Creative Officer and SVP of Marketing at the Atlanta Hawks, looking at the transformation of the Atlanta Hawks, the full rebrand. And if you didn't catch the article that I tweeted out earlier this week on why are mascots so mean, and it looks at some of the mascots and how over time they've become more fierce, to give them a little bit more edge. So I'm really looking for hearing and chatting with Peter. Hopefully we'll get a time to talk to him at seat, and also representing Melbourne, Natalie Brown and Mike Billing from Melbourne Storm will be running a presentation on loyalty programs for fans and members in the CRM track. So plenty going on. I haven't even got past day one in this. So please check out the agenda. There's plenty there, and one of the sessions that I'm really looking forward to, both from a closed door point of view. So there's at seat there's a closed door session which is teams and team representatives only, and no sponsors and vendors allowed. And it's a real deep dive conversation where people are really open about what they're facing from a problems point of view, without having vendors ready there to prey on whatever problem there might be. Those closed door sessions are terrific, and they're normally held at the end of each day, both on the Monday and the Tuesday. But then we're also going to be having these open collaborative roundtable sessions. And these have come out of Seat London. So for those of you like Tom Halls, who were at Seat London, and I know Tom had to leave early and didn't actually get to see the roundtables. These sessions are similar to the closed door sessions, but we're going to be led by roundtable leaders. So we're going to have a who's who of our track, that are going to effectively be the table captains, and we're going to pose a few questions and a few hypothetical situations to each table to try to solve the world's problems in under 45 minutes, because that's all we can do. But what we really found from a London perspective was it really stimulated a lot of discussion, both with vendors, with attendees, and really got the networking supercharged it, if you will. So really looking forward to those open room, closed door sessions that should be terrific. And that pretty much it. That pretty much wraps it up. The last panel, which is we're still putting together the panel members, and I'm running the discussion and helping Christine source those members, is one around reaching millennials through the new age of digital and video platforms. So really looking at those new video platforms, looking at Periscope, looking at Meerkat, looking at Snapchat, and how they are changing both the landscape of what we're trying to do, from a team point of view, from a league point of view. So we're trying to get on that panel someone from the league to give that league perspective. We saw recently the guys at Wimbledon are saying they're going to start using Periscope a little bit at Wimbledon, but they're still unsure in how fans fit in that space. And as I discussed last episode with Alex Kunowicz at Liverpool. Again, it is a little bit of a nightmare for the rights holders. So that will be an all-in track, an all-in panel. We will have people from the CIO, CXO, and the digital track and CRM guys all in there talking about that big issue. So if you have not booked your seat ticket yet, you have until June 30. I'm recording this on Thursday the 25th, and hopefully it'll be out soon after. So you have until June 30. So if you need assistance convincing your boss, please either email me, Sean, at sportsgeekhq.com. Happy to make the pitch from why you should be there. Don't forget, if you're coming all the way from Australia and New Zealand, we do have a special Sports Geek offer for first-time attendees from Australia and New Zealand. But otherwise, go to the Seat website. If I've done my job correctly, you should be seeing Seat adverts on your Facebook feed. And if you do, please tag people you believe should be coming to Seat. That's one effective way of letting people know. But please check out the agenda. It's well worth attending. You won't get better value in 3 days of networking and the like over the couple of days at Seat. So very much looking forward to it. That's it from me. As always, if you wouldn't mind, please sharing this podcast on your social networks. Reach out to Todd and Joe and tell them that you listened to the podcast. I love seeing people tweeting and mentioning that my guests, they are the stars of the show. And if you could leave a review on iTunes, that would be very much appreciated. Getting close to 80 reviews. I'm going to try to hit that 100 mark. I'll be putting a hard word on people I meet at Seat that haven't given me a review. So you pretty much should get that awkward conversation out of the way and get that review in iTunes in the next couple of weeks. Just giving you fair warning. Until then, my name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek, and you can reach me at Sean Callanan on the Twitter. Until next time, cheers.
Find all Sports Geek podcasts at sportsgeekhq.com/SGP. Check out which teams work with Sports Geek at sportsgeekhq.com/clients. Please leave a review on iTunes. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes. Thanks for listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.